It's not that thing that you push on your belly. Hey guys, it's Matt Haycox here, and today I've got James Beveridge with me, who is one of London's top virtual reality specialists. And this is part of my new weekly segment where each week I try and bring you a specialist in their field, quite often an unusual field, where we can learn something new and hopefully find applications for your business for it. So James, thanks for being here, buddy.
Well, thanks very much for having me.
And I'm looking forward to hearing all about virtual reality and its many applications.
It's been a fun journey over the last sort of four or 5 years or so to get to this point, and yeah, happy to share my learnings to this point.
Well, I guess just before we kind of get into, we've got some tech here to use, I guess, but just before we get into that, can you just tell me a bit about you, your background, and kind of how we got to where we are today?
Yeah, so I'm James Beveridge, MD of Pebble Studios. We are a film animation and immersive technology studio. I've been going for 8 years, and the virtual reality and the immersive technology side of our business really launched around 4 or 5 years ago, during which time it was Oculus who were one of the main players in the market. We already had 3D animators in the studio and thought, look, let's have a go at this technology, let's see if we can make something of it. Turns out it wasn't as big a stretch as we thought at the time, and really at that point it was about trying stuff out, it was about testing ideas, testing content, and it's been a journey since then to get to a point where it's a little bit more, better quality. I think it's a better experience. I think most importantly, probably a better use of the technology. We're not just using it for tech's sake anymore, but we're using it where it's having a real impact.
And prior to the VR and the tech, so obviously you're an animation studio historically. What kind of applications for animation? Who would a typical client be? What kind of?
So we're working both with marketing agencies and advertising agencies across London and across the world, but also with brands directly, predominantly in the sort of the B2C space. Technology, entertainment, sports, fashion, etc. Yeah.
So VR, you decided to bring it into the mix. Tell us about it.
We started looking at VR mainly because we just love innovation. This technology came along. First time we tried it, we just thought this is something different to what we'd ever experienced. Now we knew there'd be a certain amount of R&D and a certain amount of sort of testing to see how well it worked, but there was nothing else like it that we'd tried, where you were fully taken away from the world you're in and transported to somewhere completely different. And I think when you realise you can have that kind of immediate connection with an audience, you know there's value in it. It then comes down to what kind of content works. And
just to be clear, is the tech? Have you developed the tech, or do you develop the applications for?
We develop the content for the technology. So there's a number of players out there. Oculus is one of the ones we've got here with us. This is actually one of the sort of really accessible headsets, only £200 or so at the moment. You can preload content onto it as well as access content online.
So who would a typical purchase of this be? This would be, the kid at home who wants to play a game, or the adult who's.
Yeah, I would say this is your. It's probably a slight step above entry level in that it is a good quality piece of tech. It would be for a kid at home who's just interested in having virtual experiences, but it might also be for business purposes where you don't want to overinvest in the hardware and in the units. You might want multiple units for perhaps salespeople, that kind of thing, without having to overstretch yourself. Now, if you're getting into the really high-end stuff, you need powerful PCs. You can have haptics and you'd be far more immersed in the experience, but this is a great sort of entry level, and it's got a good screen, it's got a good feel to it.
And what are the business applications that you're typically seeing? I guess to me, the things that immediately would jump to mind would be property developers being able to show a client or show a bank around a potential scheme, or I guess if it's a more complicated product that that you're not quite ready to touch and feel yet, you could experience it in that manner. Is that?
I think that's spot on. I would say those sort of examples would be what we might think of. I'd say they are quite understandable examples, almost quite obvious ones, in that you're taking someone from one place, putting them in somewhere completely new. I think architecture is a really good example. It's quite hard to imagine what it would be like to be in and around a building from just a kind of screen visual or a piece of print. put a headset on and you can be transported into that environment. And that's true of things like travel, certainly, as you say, architecture and property development. But it actually gets quite interesting when you look at business as a whole, because it isn't always about just taking someone somewhere new. It's also about giving them an experience they're not used to. And if you think about sales as being an opportunity to differentiate yourself, if you're at, say, a trade show or you're in a high-value customer meeting and you allow people to put a headset on, they are going to remember that experience probably more so than anything else in their day. Trade shows we see being very, very popular. You might be given, say, a 3 or 5 metre square space. Well, how do you kind of blow the doors off that space and take people into somewhere completely different, blow their minds when everyone else has just got a pop-up tent? That's the kind of place where it really does start to hold value.
Now, I guess as fantastic as it sounds, it also sounds fantastically expensive. I mean, how accessible is this for a small business?
I think it is accessible. As I say, the headsets are increasingly accessible. The camera kit, if you're looking to do a film, is very accessible now. The Gopro Fusion we'd probably classify as one of the best, relatively basic pieces of kit. Shoots fantastic quality film.
Well, and this is something that a business can shoot themselves. That they don't need to go via you to make them a production.
There is a level of production that you can do yourself. There's certain types of stitching software. So essentially what you're doing is you're creating where you might normally think about a film as being on a 16:9 screen in front of you. What you're really doing is you're creating a sphere all around you, which requires in post-production to stitch that footage together so it makes that perfect sphere. That used to be quite tricky. It's getting easier, the software is getting better. The basic level of filming can be done at a relatively amateur level, but I think there is a challenge in that content is increasingly prominent, and if you really want to stand out, then you need to be looking at things like kind of moving camera rigs, perhaps whether that's on drones or on sort of certain kind of moving rigs. But also you might want to look at CGI. How do you make that 360 environment come to life with the added overlays of animation, CGI, etc., or create entirely CGI experiences from scratch? That's where it gets really quite interesting.
And I mean, how long have you actually been putting business applications out there now?
About 4 years.
Really?
Yeah. So the first kind of year or so was very much in the R&D phase, working out what kind of camera moves work, what kind of experiences work. I think in particular, it's taking yourself away from thinking of it like a normal piece of film, and imagining it more like a piece of theatre. Thinking about that full 360 experience and how you're encouraging people to look around and explore and navigate that environment. And that was really what the first stage was about. And now it's very much looking at, as you say, different business applications and applying those ideas.
Have you got something you can show me?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've got we've got a project on here which we did, interesting one. It was for a pharmaceutical brand who actually manufacture catheters. Not an easy product to sell. It's quite a
catheter.
So it's how do I describe a catheter? It's like
it's not that thing that you push down your bell end, is it?
It's kind of. Yeah, I think it's if you're having sort of bladder problems.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It's like a catheter is like an external bladder, effectively. I mean, don't hold me to the specific definition, but that's the general context.
And of all the content you thought to have brought today, you brought me a virtual reality catheter.
Exactly. We've done all sorts of stuff, high-end entertainment and kind of mobile phone technology, among other things, and I thought I'd bring you a catheter experience.
Okay.
But I think what that does is it shows you the
varied applications.
The varied application, exactly. And so what's quite interesting about this project is what we wanted to do was capture the state of mind that a catheter user goes through when they're actually using the product, which is.
I'm already feeling pain and I've not even got the headset.
Exactly, it's painful. There's a real heightened sense of anxiety, and actually, watching a film often doesn't quite convey that sense of anxiety. We created an experience which doesn't specifically go through the use of a catheter, but it takes you through the mindset of that, and we've done it through the concept of using a high dive diving board.
Okay.
Where you basically, as you kind of go up the diving board, you kind of there's a voiceover in your head talking through the parallels between that experience you go through when you're diving off a very high diving board, but also what catheter users go through
Well, it
on a
sounds like
daily
my
basis.
two worst nightmares. I'm on the top of a diving board while someone's meddling with my tackle.
Correct. It's can't wait to get you in the headset.
Okay, strap me up. So how do we do then? And will the guys at home be able to? What will they experience? Just me looking weird? Or?
Yeah. So they we'll have some sort of shots of your actual experience as well.
Oh, fantastic.
What I'll do is I'll just prep this for you.
Just while James is doing that, I mean, I guess for me, the biggest take home from the last 10 or 15 minutes is the different finding different ways to get your business out there and different ways to showcase what it is that you've got to offer. Obviously, for anyone who watches a lot of my content, this is something I'm always talking about. How can you be different? How can you build an audience? Even if that means you're creating polarizing situations, where people love you or hate you. You want people to very much remember your experience. I mean, slightly unrelated, but when I send emails, I use a piece of software out there called BombBomb, and I'm not sponsored by them in any way, but I tell the story because it's very much like this. And effectively, what BombBomb is it's visual email, so that you can embed videos, mini 10-second GIFs, etc., within your emails, and it's something that nobody else is really doing. And I know that when I've got an email that I want to send that sends with impact, then this is something that I send it from. And I guess for me, the virtual reality sounds very much the same as that. If you're a developer, all the developers out there, they've got A4 paper, they've got models that they're building. But if you can get somebody in there and have them remember you, then that's the name of the game.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ready? I'm gonna get cathetered up.
Yeah, you are. Might have to. Actually, I'll put the headphones in as well. It should start auto playing once you've got that on. How's that? So, can you see does it say the dive?
Yeah, it says the dive
Okay.
360. So guys at home, just so you know, I'm going to kind of talk you through what I can see, and when we cut this up for you guys to watch, hopefully we're going to be able to put the images on the screen that I'm seeing right now. So yeah, let's do it. So please adjust the focus on your headset and ensure the volume is turned up.
Is it in focus?
Yeah, it's all in focus, all
should be
good.
fine then.
So what do I press? What do I do?
Is there a play button?
No. There's a play button now.
Okay.
How do I get to it?
No, it's press this trigger here. That.
So it says,
Press play.
oh, right, you've got to be on play, haven't you? There you go. It's doing it now. 1 minute, 2.
You're in a corridor.
No, it's not coming on. oh, no, it's starting. I can hear noise. I mean, the doors are opening, the white light's coming.
People do this every day.
I already feel like I'm moving this.
I feel sick.
I can hear a guy telling me that he feels sick. That's how I feel of it. Wow.
How am I going to get through this?
So when you guys see
Just
this, I'm
getting
at the
over
bottom
with.
of the diving board, climbing up. Yeah, I mean, you can completely get the sense of height.
What if it doesn't get easier? What if I make a mistake? What if I get the wrong
Climbing
angle?
up again.
What if I hurt myself? What if I just don't?
So I'm looking
I just
forward to the
don't do it.
diving board here. See the pool. I mean,
No one can do
you
this
really
but
get the
you.
complete feeling of everything. Oh God, we're still good. I thought I was about to jump.
Yeah,
We're
great.
taking me higher.
Whoa. Surely not. There's no way. There's just no way. There's no turning back now.
So looking over the diving board. I mean, you really feel, you feel a sense of nerves, don't you, as you jump in? I've made
That's a relief.
That's mega. I like that. It's really cool. So in the business application of that with the catheter thing, where is it? Have the doctors got it or something for to give to prospective patients?
So they were actually using it at conferences. Yeah. So they were bringing technology to conferences and showing people, just giving people a deeper understanding of the product and also the customer and what they have to go through. Because I think they're quite misunderstood. A lot of them actually are people who've had motorbike accidents, and they have there's a sort of commonalities between how they all feel about having to use the catheter every day. And so that was, I think it was as much as anything it's about getting the buyers to really understand the audience and realise what they go through and how important getting the right product is. Yeah. So this one takes you to.
Slightly less invasive, is it?
Yeah, this is a.
So
can you see?
Point your controller forwards and press the Oculus button to enter.
Oh yeah, hold. I think you have to hold it. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so
you flying over a distillery?
I'm not flying. Do I need to press play or something?
Yeah. I'll put these in your ears as well. Are you flying that?
The island of Islay, off the rugged west coast of Scotland, is
well.
home to no less than 8 working whisky distilleries, and the oldest of them all is Bowmore.
So did you guys film this and you
so this is
use
film.
a drone or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Distilled
So
a
that was
rich,
filmed with a drone.
peat-smoked, single malt Scotch whisky.
I mean, it's
Today,
mega how you've got
unlock
the full
treasures that
360
lie
and
within
everything,
the
isn't it?
number one vaults.
So when you're flying the
world's
drone,
oldest
has that got
Scotch
multiple camera
maturation
angles that's shooting all at once?
Yeah,
We're
that's
about
right.
to step
And you
inside
stitch
the
them
number
together.
one vaults. As the oldest Scotch maturation warehouse in the world, this has seen little
Yeah,
change
you've got your
since
narrator
it was
there.
built in
Yeah, I've got a narrator,
1779.
got some chubby chap digging out oats or
The
something.
number one
Yeah,
vaults
that's
are
right, yeah.
truly unique
But
and unlike anywhere
barley,
else in
is
the
it?
world.
That's at Barley, yeah. Guy
Discover
digging
the
coal.
treasure trove that lies
Yeah.
within.
It doesn't look like he loves his job.
Number one vaults. This is where the final, and some would say most important part of the whiskey making process takes place: maturation. They say that distilleries make spirit, but wood makes whiskey. At Bowmore, we meticulously select the finest oak casks.
So I mean, what
We
would be
then
the
fill
realistic
them with
cost for a
unique
business, to be able to deliver a finished piece
For
of visual
anywhere
like
up to
this?
54 years.
I mean,
Let's
we've
take a
done
look inside the
projects
cask
anywhere from
to see the
around
effect of
sort
wood
of
and time
£10,000
on the
up to
precious
£200,000.
liquid
So
within.
it really does depend on
Time passes
the amount of
slowly here,
the
and as
sort of the
each
style
season
of the
comes and
project. If
goes,
you're doing a
the cask draws
CGI
in and releases
versus
the spirit
film, where the
within.
locations are,
Each
number of
breath
shoot
adds a little
days,
more depth, more
it does
layers,
vary
more
quite
flavour.
significantly. And then
We've
if
been
you
crafting
start to weave
whiskies
in
over the
interactivity,
You learn a
typically
few
then you're
tricks
having to
along the way.
create some kind of native app,
Ensure that every cask rolls into place with the butt
which
pointing
adds
perfectly
sort of a
upwards.
level of
We
development
call this timing
time
the
and
barrel.
costing incurred to that.
And what's the specific
trick is in
application
knowing
for this
precisely where to
for
position
this
the
whiskey
butt to begin
whiskey
with.
one?
By gauging
Yeah, so
how
that
far
was
the
used
barrel
in
needs
global
to
travel
roll.
retail, so at airports, that kind
There's
of
more
thing,
maturing
taking
history within these
people away
ancient
from that
cigars than
everyday
anywhere
sort of,
else
or
in
that sort
Scotland.
of this fairly mundane
We
experience
laid
of being in
our
an
first
airport
cask
and
down
taking
in
them away to the
1779.
rugged island of
That's
Islay
25
in
years before
Scotland.
Napoleon became Emperor of France.
So they get a real, when they're
Although
before
the
they
faces have changed,
taste the
our
whiskey,
methods
they get that
remain
feel
pretty
of where
much
it's
the same.
from, understanding the process, the
So those of us
heritage,
privileged that have to work
the
at
sort of
Bowmore
time and the
today
care that
are
goes
the
into the production.
custodians of this ancient place, of these precious liquids, and of over
Cool.
235 years of maturation heritage, passion,
I get the gist, but no, it's very impressive. So obviously, I've just seen a couple of I guess very different styles of projects on there, and different lengths. How long is the process beginning to end? From a client coming to see you and then having a finished package like that.
I'd say, yeah, on average, we're looking at somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks, but you can turn the kind of the cheaper end of the scale. You can probably look to turn something around in 3 weeks, but equally we've done projects that have lasted for about 3 months as well. So it really depends on. There's not really a kind of one size fits all. In the same way of all kind of film and animation production, depends how long the project is and how complex it is as to how long you need.
Okay, so if we're talking to the viewers at home who are looking to have some kind of take-home tips from today, if we had to pick your top 3 tips or your top 5 tips, whatever that may be, for how a business today, ideally a small business today, can apply virtual reality, to their business model and hopefully, use it to take their profitability to the next level. What's your advice?
Well, I think it's a really, really good question because virtual reality is quite misunderstood, and I think initially everyone assumed we'd all end up living in this virtual world, and there'd be a headset in every house, and kids would never sort of experience reality again, and that hasn't happened. And I think the people in the industry knew that wasn't going to happen because the real world is great as well. So we've got to make sure if we're going to take people to the virtual world, there's a good reason for it. And I think what we would say is that in the business. For a business case, it's about understanding the context. And if you are looking for, say, mass awareness of your business, then virtual reality probably isn't the method for you. You're much better off looking at a content strategy, for example, that you can target your key audience through.
So we're saying that virtual reality much better suits, let's say, one-on-one, not so much relationships, but one-on-one interaction where you're looking to build a much stronger bond with a smaller number of people. That's
exactly right. Nearer to that point of conversion, we would say. So really high value meetings are very good for it. It's the sales environment, whether that's sort of trade shows or events, very good for it as well. That's particularly, when we're looking at the business side, we've produced virtual reality experience for agricultural products, for pharmaceutical products, for property products, where, as you say, it's that high value customer interaction where it's worth going a little bit further to invest in this kind of technology.
I guess while you were talking, I was thinking of applications in my head, and as well, this would be perfect for anyone building something bespoke, really, isn't it? No matter what the price point is, but particularly at those higher level price points, if that's a luxury car or a luxury yacht, something that's going to have a longer lead time and any kind of bespoke elements to it.
Yeah, we totally agree with that, and I know we're talking about virtual reality today, but we're looking equally. We do augmented reality and mixed reality, where you might have a lens which enables you to see a real product. That's something very popular in automotive, looking at cars and seeing how that physical object in front of you can be brought to life through an additional layer of visual effects. So I think absolutely we typically see it as being relatively high value interactions, and that's when it really starts to deliver ROI.
Obviously, while you've been talking, we've mentioned 2 words or 2 phrases: augmented reality and virtual reality. Just for the guys at home and me too, who don't understand the differences between those two, can you just flesh it out a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So a virtual reality experience is a headset experience where you are fully immersed in the world of the headset and the world of the content that you're watching. An augmented reality experience is where we are taking a real world object and we're adding over the top of that a digital layer using typically some kind of mobile device, a smartphone. It might be an iPad, might be a smartphone, that kind of thing. The benefit of augmented reality is everyone's got a phone in their pocket and it's a very, very accessible technology. The benefit of virtual reality is that it's far more immersive and therefore arguably more memorable.
Obviously, one of the things we were talking about earlier was how much virtual reality has come on, and that I guess people's concerns in the early days were that or not so much concerns but expectations were that virtual reality would take over day-to-day reality, and there'd be parents and kids sat at home with the VR headsets on. Obviously, we're not there, but where do you see VR going 10 years down the line, 15, 20 years down the line?
I think we'll probably see it being, first of all, I think the hardware is going to get better. It's got better looking, but it's not the most attractive bit of kit. It's not the most ergonomic thing to wear. we'll probably look back at this interview in 10 years' time and go, God, do you remember that weird headset we were wearing?
I guess it'll be the equivalent of the old tellies in the plasmas, you know, that we'll be wearing sunglasses with VR built in.
Exactly. The hardware's going to get far better. It will be easier to wear, more manageable. Potentially the price point might come down even further, or certainly the quality will improve. And I think what we'll probably see is that it'll become a very, very common part of our entertainment experiences, whether that's gaming or perhaps theme park type entertainment. It already is in good use in those areas, but it's going to get better and better. The kind of experiences we'll be able to have there, I think, will genuinely blow our minds, and are starting to do so already. And then from a business point of view, I think it will, again, as people become more used to the technology and see better returns on the investments they're making, as we start to learn where it helps to convert people, where it helps to build sort of memorable brand experiences, I think we'll just see more and more people using it. And again, as the hardware gets a little bit smaller, I think people won't mind the idea of wearing a headset so much.
Perfect. Well, listen, James, it's been super interesting. If not a little scary jumping off the diving board. But thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot for sharing this with the guys at home. VR is obviously a lot more attainable than it was in the past. I mean, obviously not suitable to everyone's business, but hopefully you guys at home can think other ways that you can apply this to your business. And if so, get in touch with James and Pebble Studios. So thanks a lot for being here.
Thanks very much for having me. Cheers.